Hi, many of you guys may have been wondering, since the banks are so big, what other jobs are there out there? So that's a very good question, and I have one of these job examples to share with you guys. Um, this is one of my previous interviews that I did for a programmer analyst fixed income role. So what this role essentially does is you're a programmer. So you work tightly with portfolio managers. And portfolio managers, they also split up into teams, right? Maybe these portfolio managers, they are specifically specialized in bonds. Maybe they're specialized in selling, and maybe these portfolio managers are specialized in fixed income, right? So the portfolio managers, they work closely with the programmers, and if the portfolio managers have any sort of need for their to better balance their portfolios, they will ask the programmers to come up with a solution, and the programmers will basically program the product, put it onto, uh, basically merge it into their GitHub or their SVN or whatever Bitbucket they're using. So what does this role do? You need a pretty heavy programming background in order to do something like a programmer analyst fixed income. It's not a normal data analyst role or business analyst role. It's a more advanced role. So if you've never done heavily full stack programming and research before, this role is definitely way out of bounds. This is looking at maybe computer science masters or graduate students, because they require you to have thorough Python knowledge and React knowledge, SQL knowledge, JavaScript knowledge, and on top of that, you also need to read the most recent research papers coming out of the University of Toronto, all the universities across the world. If they released a brand new research paper on how to better the algorithm, so you also have to be pretty good in terms of your algorithm. So if you're a computer science student, computer engineering student, software programmer, this kind of job would be for you. Now, when I interviewed with them, they asked me a lot of algorithm problems. Of course, they asked me Python problems, they asked me SQL problems, they asked me React problems, they asked me JavaScript problems. So it was very well rounded. You had to have basic knowledge in all of these fields. They also asked me what project was the hardest I worked on in terms of programming, and how many lines of code was written into that project, right? So you have to come prepared to answer all these questions, whether it be algorithm questions or JavaScript questions, SQL questions, React questions, Python questions. So if they ask you why React, why not Node.js, why not AngularJS, what is the big difference between using React and all of these other frameworks, right? So I got asked that question, and the answer, you can find it on Google. It's pretty simple. It's because they update the moment you push something on. There is no downtime, so more companies are geared towards using React, right? So they also ask SQL, JavaScript, algorithms. You have to really come in prepared, and the paying for starting salary for this job was pretty good. It was around 75, 80,000 for a starting job. Um, but mind you, it's in a big city. It's in Toronto, so obviously they can't offer anything lower than that. But I do think if you are able to do full stack development and you are able to do research as well, all at the same time, there's companies that would pay you 100,000 Canadian easily out there. especially since it's a full stack role and they expect you coming in with 3 to 5 years of experience. That alone speaks volumes. Like, no matter how competitive the bank's package is, you have to know that banks undergo downsizing, they cut people, and the first people they cut are, you guessed it, these people, because they're not like the retail side, they don't bring in any business per se, right? So when the time comes and the banks need to restructure, these are the first people on the chopping board. So you might have a job for a year and then you go jobless. So it's a good place to work, because if it's in a big five bank, which this one is, if it's with a big five, it's a pretty good offer. So if it's one of your starting jobs, I would definitely take it. If it's one of your later on jobs, like let's say you already had 3 to 5 years of experience, or you worked at a startup, or you own a startup, like this is definitely not going to satisfy your needs. Like, this is just like a side role thing right here. But that's one of the other roles that exists inside the banks, right? That no one actually knows about, or even probably searches it up, and they always go for, business analyst, technical analyst, technical systems analyst, something like that, right? And they don't look for roles like these. So these are more like the hidden, more niche roles inside the bank, and obviously they work 9 to 5. They don't they don't stay overtime. After they're done, they probably even leave before 5 finishes. So that's it for this episode on what other roles are available in banks. And I'll have more roles coming in as I cover more and more in the future. And thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next episode.